Hi, I'm Scott, the Tall Woodworker. Today, I'm going to turn a Vertex Click pen out of this laminated pen blank. This is actually a really unique pen blank. I picked this up from a Rockler, not sponsored by them at all. And there's just a lot of really cool woods all laminated inside of here. I see purpleheart, marblewood, maple, padauk. I believe there's even some ebony in here. So there's a lot of really cool things in this blank. I like the fact that they laminated it on a diagonal instead of side to side. That really does, that should really make some interesting turnings once this is all complete. So we're gonna cut this up, drill it out, get on the lathe, and turn out a pretty unique looking pen. Come along. Okay, so even though this is only a single tube pen instead of a dual tube pen, I still want to cut down this blank so that we can pick exactly where on the blank we want to have the pieces of wood. I really like how there's the purple heart right in the middle. I'm actually thinking of making that right at the middle line. So we're going to cut just a little bit more on either side of this pen barrel. Okay, so now I've got the blank mounted into the vise on the drill press. I've marked a hole on the center using a centering guide, and we're going to bore a hole through this. Okay, so that survived the drill press, which I'm really happy with. I always get nervous when it comes to laminated pieces because as the drill goes through, sometimes this area gets blowout. There actually was just the tiniest little bit that got chipped away there, but I'm not worried about that. That's going to turn away. I'm going to make sure that my tube sits closer to this end of the pen, and we should be fine. So now what I do is I make sure that the tube goes in cleanly. You don't want anything impeding that. And we're going to rough it up with a sanding disc. Even though some tubes come with roughing marks, I do like to do that myself. So we're going to rough it up with sandpaper, use some medium CA glue, insert the tube, and then I let that sit there naturally to dry. I don't use the activator for a couple minutes. Let that naturally dry, and while that's drying, I set up the drill press for the next bit. Okay, so I already got the drill press set up with the barrel trimmer. Basically, there are two pieces of this. The shaft actually cleans out any dried up super glue that happens to remain inside the tube. It also helps keep it perfectly in line. Then the cutter head on the top will actually shave off the top portion of this blank so that when we're all done, we know that the top of the blank is perpendicular to the center of the tube. It's very important when we do this that we don't go anywhere past the brass. We want to get to the brass tube, no further. So it's one of those trial and error type things. You just keep on going a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower, until you finally see that brass tube. Okay, now we're ready to put this on the lathe. I've got my pen mandrel in place. Every pen kit comes with a set of bushings. Some pen kits can use the same bushings as other pen kits, but that's not always a universal thing. So don't take that as it comes. But I got the bushing kit for my pen kit, so we're going to go ahead and chuck that up on the lathe. slide my tailstock in and tighten everything down. Because we're dealing with several different species of wood in here, this is not going to turn completely smoothly. Some of these will turn quickly, some of them will turn a little bit slowly. So I just have to watch out for that as I turn this. But in general, we should be able to get a pretty good shaping off of this. We want to first knock off all the corners. That's goal 1. Goal 2 is to get it round and also cut off these excess pieces that are at the ends. And then goal 3 is to get it down to the bushing size. Okay, I'm actually very happy with the way that that's looking right now. So we're going to switch to our sandpapers and shape this down to the final size. Okay, so I moved you a bit so that you can see this a little bit better. Hopefully my hands don't get too much in the way. I will be using strips of sandpaper to shape this down so that I can get that final feeling. I've got about 5 different grits of sandpaper that I'm going to use to smooth it out. And because this is wood of different grains, what I'm going to do between each grit is wipe it down with some acetone and then flip it around. That way I'm not constantly going in the same direction. It's going to take me a little bit longer to do it that way, but the result will end up being a lot better. So let's get started on that. The first grit takes a lot longer to do because it's the final shaping, and then all the other ones go pretty quickly after that. Okay, that was all done using the 150 grit. So it was all the same sandpaper for all that shaping. We're now down to exactly the size shape that I want it to be. So what I do after every sanding, since it was spinning in one direction, there's a whole bunch of little fine lines that if I were to keep going and just doing the turning, they'd show up on the final project. So what I do is I scratch it side to side with the same grit sandpaper, and this starts to get rid of those circular marks. So this is another step that we do in between each one of the sandpaper grits. So once this is done, I'm going to use the acetone to clean it off, get the sawdust out, then we'll rotate it and get on to the next sandpaper. What I really like about using acetone on these projects is because it evaporates quickly, it doesn't stay on there for too long, but you can also start to see what the pen looks like once it's finished. For this one, I kind of want to keep the wood feel, so I'm going to use an Aussie oil, which is it's a high gloss rubbing oil and friction polish. So we're going to use that instead. I don't want to potentially grind down my bushings any, so I'm going to swap those out first. Now that is a beautiful looking finish. You got a really nice gloss there. The grain really pops on that. The different pieces of wood really come out. The Purple Heart admittedly got a little bit muted throughout the whole process. But still, it's a really, really nice looking pen blank. I'm going to be really happy to see what this looks like once it's finished. Probably put one or two more coats on. This stuff does get very hot. I mean, it is a friction polish. So it's meant to be. It's actually what helps to harden the polish to the pen. And there is our final pen. It's not as glossy as using a CA glue, but it still is a really nice finish, and it still retains the wood feel to it. Not as durable as CA as well, but like I said, I think this really pops. So I'm going to buff it out just a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and assemble the pen. Okay, so now that we have the blank outside of the lathe, we're ready to assemble this. So I've laid out all the parts based on how they're going to be assembled. We got the instructions to go ahead and do the assembly. Definitely recommend following the instructions because they'll tell you the proper way and the proper order to do this. First we go ahead and press in the tip nut. Then we're going to do the click assembly. I'm trying to line the clip up so that it's right at the apex of these curves. So we can go ahead, insert the refill, along with the spring and the tip. And there we go. That is a finished click pen. And so there you go. This is the Vertex Click pen turned with a multi-wood laminated blank. If you like what you saw, click the thumbs up icon. Also be sure to follow my YouTube channel and hit the notification icon so that you can be updated when new videos come out. I don't post videos on a persistent schedule, but I do try to get them out whenever I can. So thank you very much for watching.